So one of the founding members for the Oath Keepers organization, one of the groups that attacked the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, just pleaded guilty and agreed to cooperate with prosecutors. So it's about to get real for the Oath Keepers. And that's a good thing, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So you probably heard that we now have the first guilty plea of a defendant who participated in the insurrection, in the attack on the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. This defendant's name is Jon Schaffer, and here's the headline from the New York Times. Oath Keeper pleads guilty and will cooperate in January 6th riot inquiry. And the Department of Justice issued a statement about this guilty plea, and here's how that statement reads in part. On this 100th day since the horrific January 6th assault on the United States Capitol, Oath Keepers member Jon Schaffer has pleaded guilty to multiple felonies, including for breaching the Capitol with the intent to interfere with Congress's certification of the Electoral College results. So yesterday's guilty plea was actually a culmination of a process that has been going on for some time with this particular defendant, Jon Schaffer. Here's why I say that. Let's do a quick behind the prosecutorial scenes about how we develop cooperating defendants. So this case is being prosecuted by my former office and professional home, the United States Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia. It's located at 555 4th Street, Northwest Washington, D.C., and because of the street address 555, the nickname of my old office is the Triple Nickel, or some people call it the Snitch Building, but let's stick with the Triple Nickel. Here's what happens when somebody gets arrested and we want to determine whether we want to try to bring that defendant on as a cooperating defendant. So one of two things happens. Either after the defendant is arrested, the defendant's attorney will reach out to the prosecutors and say, hey, my client would like to come in, talk with you all, and explore the possibility of cooperation. Or the prosecutors will know that this guy is ripe. He is like chock full of criminal information about the crimes of others. So we'll reach out to the defendant's attorney and say, we would like to bring your client in for a debriefing with a view toward possible cooperation. And if both parties agree, here's what happens. Usually these defendants are locked up at the DC jail pending indictment and trial. Not always, but if they've committed significant, dangerous crimes and they would pose a danger to the community or a flight risk, if released, then frequently the judge will order the defendant remain jailed, remain detained pending indictment and trial. So what happens is the U.S. Marshals will transport that defendant from the D.C. jail to the basement of the U.S. Attorney's Office, to the basement of the Triple Nickel, where we have a series of secure interview rooms. And when I say secure, trust me, they're secure. I spent hundreds of hours in those rooms. They are guarded by U.S. Marshals. There are all sorts of security measures in place. So then, if it were me, I'd be sitting across the table in a little 10-foot by 10-foot room with my FBI agent, my homicide detective, and across the table would be the defendant and the defendant's attorney. And we would begin what's called the debriefing process. And before we ever start talking with the defendant, we give him a letter. It's a temporary immunity letter. What does that do? It says, you can talk to us about the crimes you committed, and as importantly, crimes that you know others have committed. You can provide us information about that, and you can talk about all of it without any of it being used against you. It's a kind of temporary immunity. Sometimes it's called a Queen for a Day letter, and that is to encourage the defendant to speak freely so he can tell us what he knows and we can go about investigating the information he provides. So there will be many debriefing meetings with a particular defendant. Why? Because once that defendant provides us all that information under that temporary immunity letter, we have to do our homework. We have to go out, we have to investigate it, we have to vet it, we have to try to corroborate it or debunk it, because sometimes aspiring cooperators lie to us to try to get a plea deal. And then we have to go back and have another debriefing and say, okay, now we have some additional questions based on the follow-up investigation we did. And we will have meeting after meeting after meeting, and we will get from that aspiring cooperating defendant all of the information he has about the crimes he committed and the crimes his cohorts, his associates, his co-conspirators, his fellow oath keepers committed. And we will get all of his information about his social media accounts and about all electronic communications he may have had with other bad actors, with other co-defendants. And we can get information that might otherwise be on encrypted communication vehicles or apps or encrypted communications that we might otherwise have a hard time getting our hands on. So here's the good news. I am confident that before the prosecutors at the DC U.S. Attorney's Office, and as an aside, I will tell you, the people who are handling the insurrection cases are my friends, my former colleagues. Some of them I supervised in the homicide section. Some of them I tried their first murder case with. I'm not going to name names. These are terrific public servants. These assistant United States attorneys working these insurrection cases are the kind of prosecutors and public servants we the people deserve. I'm telling you, they make us proud every day. Trust me on this. Things are headed in the right direction post-Donald Trump, post-Bill Barr. So when we finally have to decide whether to offer this defendant a guilty plea and cooperation agreement, we've already vetted this information that he's provided, and we know the value of it. And if it's really important and it's valuable and it will help us bring others to justice, then we will offer a guilty plea and cooperation agreement with that particular defendant, and we will make them a formal cooperating defendant. So when Jon Schaffer, a founding member of the Oath Keepers, stood up in court yesterday, pleaded guilty, and we learned it was with cooperation, that spells trouble for the Oath Keepers organization. I'm not saying the Oath Keepers committed a whole bunch of other crimes apart from what we saw them do on January 6th, but if they did, oh, it's about to get real for the Oath Keepers. And remember, we've heard that the Oath Keepers were working potentially in concert with the Proud Boys. So whatever Jon Schaffer knows about the Proud Boys' culpability, criminal conduct, guess what? The prosecutors now know it. And, you know, the process by which we develop cooperating defendants, it's really important. It takes a long time. It looks like the prosecutors did it at light speed because we're only 100 days out from the attack on the Capitol that was inspired and incited by Donald Trump and Don Jr. and Mo Brooks and Rudy Giuliani. And that is where this case is building to, in my estimation. Stay tuned. People are asking, why haven't sedition charges been brought yet? I predict they will. But this is exactly how we go about investigating big gang cases. And there is no bigger gang case. This is a de facto gang case because a gang attacked the Capitol on January 6th. And we start with the standalone charges, the relatively low-level trespass type charges and destruction of property and assault. Then we build to conspiracies, and we've seen some conspiracies charged. Then comes the big charge, a seditious conspiracy, sedition, and inciting this riot that took place at the U.S. Capitol. All of those charges, I strongly suspect, are coming. And the cooperation of a founding member of the Oath Keepers like Jon Schaffer is a big step toward that ultimate charge of seditious conspiracy and others. So it was a really good development that we saw yesterday, and I have a feeling we're going to start to see more good developments. We're going to start to see more people charged. We're going to start to see more significant crimes indicted. And I'm going to say it again, because I believe it to my core after more than 30 years as a federal prosecutor. Justice is coming, particularly now that we are living in a post-Trump government. And justice matters. So folks, I think we're on the right path. I think better days are ahead. So please stay safe. Please stay tuned. And I look forward to talking with y'all again tomorrow.